Welcome back for another Greek lesson. Today we address the subjunctive mood, and I admit this is a lesson which I always look forward to, actually with a little bit of fear. The subjunctive mood may seem like a frightening thing. We hardly ever use it in English, but it's pretty easy to recognize in Greek. The problem with the subjunctive mood is actually interpretation and translation. So like usual, we'll have to see how it looks in its natural environment, we'll find out how it behaves, and then hopefully we'll figure out how to do something with it. Please remember, if you want plenty of practice, go to my full class at pottersschool.org, the Potter's School, or as an adult, we offer the pre-seminary Greek at American Lutheran Theological Seminary. And I always try to have lots of helpful things up at my campus ministry website, wittenbergcomo.com. Now, what is this subjunctive mood and what in the world is it good for? The subjunctive mood is used to take us one step away from reality. If you think about it, the indicative mood has been used, we've used it to ask questions, and we've used it to make statements. So we can say, the apostle writes a letter, or we can say, it is raining, or we can say, here comes Santa Claus, for that matter. Those are real statements. Now, what if we want to move a step away from reality and say, the apostle might write a letter, or to say, if it rains I might get wet, or to say, I wonder if Santa Claus really is coming. See, the subjunctive mood will move us one step away from reality. It can be used to urge somebody to action, especially to urge us to action. Let's go shopping, or let's do some Greek. It can be used for encouraging. We should be hopeful. We should take hope. Or even in the second person or the third person. I would like him to write a letter. Or I would like her to return that Christmas present. We can use it for making speculations. If my umbrella works, I might stay dry this afternoon. We can use it for showing purposes. I'm going to go fishing so that I might have supper tonight. Or we can use it to make a condition. If I were a rich man, I'd have a stairway going to no place in particular. So that's what the subjunctive is good for. You see, all of those are not descriptions of reality. They've moved us away from reality. Well, the subjunctive mood in Greek has some oddities. What's odd about it? First oddity is there's no augment in the aorist tense. Okay, that's interesting. You might have noticed that in the participles as well. The augment only happens in the indicative mood, so there is no augment anywhere in the subjunctive mood. There's also no future, and there's a reason for that. After all, the future tense is a step away from reality anyway. Right? If I say at sundown it will become dark, well, that's assuming this sundown is the same as every other sundown. And yet it's not in the realm of reality, it's in the realm of what I expect to happen, you see. So the subjunctive, it doesn't have a future tense because really when it talks about possibility or something that's not quite real, that's got the future idea anyway. Now also, the subjunctive mood is not really used for impossibility. So we won't use the subjunctive mood to say, oh, it's absolutely unimaginable that pigs would start sprouting wings and flying. Okay, I'm not going to use the subjunctive mood to express that idea. I'm going to use something else, an optative or some sort of a prohibitive statement. But I'm going to use the subjunctive mood for something that really could potentially happen, not for something that's impossible. Now, what makes the subjunctive mood easy in Greek? First off, there are a series of words introducing the subjunctive mood, and we'll call them marker words. They're ways of saying, hey, look, this is a possibility coming up. We'll also see the same kind of stem we'd use in the indicative mood and primary endings, even in the aorist tense, the kind of endings you'd use in the indicative mood. But the vowel between the stem and the ending is going to be lengthened, and that will normally make it pretty easy to spot the subjunctive. Let's take a look at a paradigm or two and see what the subjunctive mood looks like. All right, here's the present subjunctive at the top of the screen, and you can't really identify it in the first person singular in the active because there was already a long vowel. But look at these others. You see we have o, ace, a, amen, eta, usi, but before the ending the vowel has been lengthened. So it's o, ace, a, omen, eta, osi. Same thing happens in the middle, omai, a, etai, amatha, estha, antai, but look how the vowel right before the ending has been lengthened. So usually you can identify the subjunctive mood by that lengthened ending or the lengthened vowel before the ending. Let's take a look at the aorist. Again, in the aorist we see an aorist stem, no augment though. And often the only way you can tell that it's an aorist is that there has been an altered stem, or there's the sigma. See the lengthened vowel again, o, ace, a, amen, eta, usi, but the vowel before it lengthens. And notice in the passive we've still got the theta epsilon, but it really changes into a theta eta or a theta omega because of the lengthening. The verb for being also has a subjunctive, only in the present. Notice how it happens, o, ace, a, omen, eta, osi. So it looks very much like simply subjunctive endings with no stem. Well, so how are we going to translate this subjunctive mood? It's not too awfully hard to form, is it? We're going to recognize the subjunctive by some marker words that I had mentioned earlier, and they may actually help us with translation. We have this word eon, which means if. If I were a rich man, I would so and so. Well, that just helped us move to a translation that seems to show possibility. Hina, in order that, so that. I will drive a car so that I can get to my destination faster. Hey, I used can instead of will, so that I might get to my destination. You see, I'll tend to use vocabulary then, or phraseology, which indicates a potential rather than a reality. We can do a negative with mede, and not, nor, not even. If I am going to Finland tomorrow, not even a car will be fast enough. or not even a car would get me there on time, so I might take a plane. Or I might not go to Finland tomorrow. We'll see. See, in English, we indicate the subjunctive not only by marker words like if, in order, so that, but by using helping verbs. In the indicative mood, we'd use helping verbs like am, are, is, do, does, but in the subjunctive mood, we'd use helping verbs like may, might, could, would, should. We're moving one step away from reality then by using the subjunctive mood. Now what about tenses? There's no future tense for the subjunctive mood. There's only a present and an aorist, and very rarely there will be a perfect tense, which we won't have to worry about too much. Once we learn the perfect tense, you'll see that the subjunctive mood is easy to recognize in the perfect tense. But the use of tenses in the subjunctive mood is almost entirely a reference to linear action or punctiliar action. The present tense shows linear action, ongoing or repeated action, whereas the aorist will show punctiliar action, a point of action, unrepeated action. They really don't show now or before now. They really do show linear action or a point of action. So in English, we're normally going to translate the different tenses of the subjunctive, well, alike. English doesn't make much of a difference between linear and punctiliar action. And so that's an area where being familiar with what the Greek can do will really be helpful. You'll be able to see an English translation, but when you look at the Greek, you can look a little bit behind the English translation and you can say to yourself, so is this real action or a potential action? Is it ongoing? Is it a point of action? What is it? And that will help you with your interpretation. Now there are three very common uses of the subjunctive, and they'll probably take us a long, long way here. One common use is called the hortatory subjunctive. In the hortatory subjunctive, what we do is we use the first person plural, and it makes a first person command. For instance, we should work harder, or I think I said earlier, let's go shopping. There you go, that's a subjunctive mood. It doesn't mean we are doing it. It means we probably will, or at least I think we ought to. It can be, the subjunctive can also be used for purpose. And if we use hina with the subjunctive, we're going to show a desired result. Now that's different from an actual result. So here, for example, it happens to be raining while I'm making this recording, so maybe I have water on the brain. But I could use the indicative mood to say, I will walk outside and be wet. I can use hina with the subjunctive mood and say, in the indicative, I will carry an umbrella. Hina, I would not become wet. I'd use the subjunctive, and that would be the desired result. You see, it doesn't make a guarantee that my umbrella will not fail or that I won't get splashed by a car or anything like that, but it shows the desired result. That's what hina with the subjunctive will do. We can also make future conditions using the word eon, which means if. If we use eon and the subjunctive, instead of using a with the indicative, we're going to indicate a possibility. The indicative will indicate reality. So, I will go to the store if I want more eggs. There, I'd use aeon with the subjunctive. Now, let's imagine I looked in the refrigerator and I see that there are no eggs. Then I could say something using a and the indicative. I'd say, if I want eggs, I will go to the store. You see, I've indicated the reality using a and the indicative, but I can indicate the possible condition using aeon with the subjunctive. So you see, when you see the subjunctive mood, it's a little difficult to translate. The reason it's difficult to translate is that we need some sort of a helping verb, and there are several different ways it could be interpreted. However, the subjunctive mood will be used to show something that's just one step from reality. We'll get used to using it pretty quickly, especially as we see it in action quite a bit. Keep doing that Greek. That's the only way you're going to meet things in their natural environment.